Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. No, this is not a payday prep. But what I want to do today is, I want to take some time to have a talk with those of you that will listen as to why it is that I personally prep and why I think you should prep as well. First of all, before we start, let me go ahead and show you all that everything else came in for the homeless shelter. And as you can see, we ended up getting 108 sticks of deodorant. You've already seen the razors. We got 200. We got 210 individually wrapped toothbrushes. You saw all of the socks that we got. We got 200 containers or tubes of shampoo / body conditioner or body scrub. And we got 144 tubes of toothpaste. So again, ladies and gentlemen, I know I said it before and I will say it again. Thank you very much to all of you that helped to do this. Unfortunately, I will not be able to record this tomorrow because Saturday is the only day that I can bring this to the homeless shelter. And they don't have any of their full-time staff there who are really the only ones that are able to talk to someone that's from outside. So what I'll be doing is I'll be dropping this off in the morning to one of their volunteers. And I already know that they're extremely appreciative of this because they do know it's coming. So thank you very much. Welcome to all of you that are here. We'll be right back. First, let me show you what I got at Costco today, ladies and gentlemen. What you can see there is 20 pounds of pasta, of elbow macaroni, and those are actually imported from Italy, and they're supposed to be organic, so that's a good thing. On the left over here, you see that I got a 50-pound bag of pure cane sugar, and it is non-GMO. All right, for you non-GMO people, I hope you're proud of me. But we're not done yet. I got a 50-pound bag of rice, which is also non-GMO, which I was kind of surprised. I never realized that that rice that I get is non-GMO. But that right there is my favorite rice. It's what I call sticky rice, and it's Calrose rice, and it's the rice that they use to make sushi. And to the right there, which is probably GMO, is some bread flour. Now, this is not the flour that I normally use to bake with, but what I'm doing with this bread flour is I am going to store it away for long-term storage. Everything you see here is being stored away for long-term storage. None of this will end up in my pantry. So what I will be doing this weekend is I will be going out and buying some 5-gallon buckets and lids. I already have the Mylar bags and oxygen absorbers, and I will be packaging this up and putting it away. Now, some of you may ask, AP, I thought you were running out of room. I am. I'm running out of room in my pantry, which is the pantry that I use to rotate things out of. And the pantry that you guys are used to seeing with my number 10 cans that I'm trying to transfer to the bottom of my house so that I can get more room in my pantry to put rotational items in. However, ladies and gentlemen, obviously I'm not going to be putting 5-gallon buckets under my house in the floor trusses of my house or floor joists of my house. But let me tell you this, Alaska Prepper cannot give away all of his secrets. So where this is going, nobody knows. All right. And the last thing that you see me get over there is before, when I showed you guys where I was putting my toilet paper and some of my paper products, I'm putting it in my trailer. So we just actually got a new bag of toilet paper out of there. So I went ahead and grabbed this and I'm replacing the bag that we grabbed out of there with that roll of toilet paper right there. So that's what's going on with that. Now, altogether, ladies and gentlemen, you're looking at a nutritional value in calories of roughly 280,000 calories. And what did I pay for this? I paid about $115 for what you see in front of you. Now, 280,000 calories for about $115, I think it's a great deal. I know many people are going to harp on the sugar. Many people will harp on the bread flour. However, this is what I say. I am showing you what I prep. This is obviously not the only thing that I prep. However, what I'm trying to do here is trying to light a fire under you. Those of you that have not started prepping, those of you that are slacking on your prepping because you think everything's going to be just fine, those of you that may be new to the channel, that may be just passing by and wondering, what's this guy doing with all this food? Well, I'm going to explain to you what it is that I'm doing with all this food here in a minute. So ladies and gentlemen, as I sit here on my throne of preps, why is it that I feel it's so important to prep? You've probably seen it on the title. I prep because I love my family. And as many of you probably know, I've been going through a small, hopefully it's a small medical issue the last couple of weeks. And this last week I caught myself staring at my kids and staring at my wife and wondering, what if my CAT scan comes back and it's not good? And ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that maybe have gone through something similar, where you were waiting on test results to see if you were okay, or to see if whatever issues you may have are fixable, you can probably relate with how I'm feeling. Any man or woman that has a family, in my heart of hearts, I feel that they would do anything for their family. And when you're faced with an issue like this, you start to think, have I done everything that I can do? What if 6 months from now I'm not here? Will my family be okay with me? And I don't know. Only the Lord knows that. But all I know is that I'm here now. And I am going to make sure that I can do everything, or that I do everything that I possibly can to make sure that my family will be okay. Everything that's going on in the world, be it political, geopolitical, be it crop failures, late harvests, be it the weather, be it animals dying off. It seems like we're coming into a storm of storms. Sometimes it feels like everything is going to hit at once and we're going to be caught off guard. And that's what prepping is for. Let me start off by telling you all, thank you very much for my VIPs that are here and that are always here every time I put up a video. You guys are what makes this community what it is. So thank you very much for being here. If you're just passing by, then take a few minutes out of your day and listen to the conversation that I'm going to have with you, because it just may make sense. No, I'm not a hoarder. No, I'm not addicted to buying stuff. I actually don't like stuff. I don't like having things that I don't need to have. But I do like being prepared so that when I do need something, it is readily available. And it doesn't have to be during a crisis. It doesn't have to be during a systemic crisis that's going on throughout a state or a county or the world or the country. It could be anything. It could be a personal crisis, a personal life-changing event where maybe you lost a part of the family, a member of the family that was your main breadwinner. And now you're able to carry on without the stress of having to figure out where you're going to get food, or where you're going to get those things that you use on a daily basis because now you cannot afford it. It can be anything, ladies and gentlemen. And trust me, when you see 50 pounds of rice, 50 pounds of flour and sugar, etc., it doesn't mean that you have to prep what I prep. If you want to go out and buy 50 pounds of sunflower seeds because that's what you eat and that's what sustains you, by all means, but at least buy enough sunflower seeds that's going to last you a while so that you can have sustenance in any time that those sunflower seeds may not become available to you. I know those sunflower seeds was probably a bad example. I prefer pumpkin seeds myself. What we have to do is we have to realize that we are responsible for ourselves. There is not going to be a knight in shining armor. Any country that has ever gone through some kind of a serious full-blown crisis, and I mean, I could name a few of them, Zimbabwe, Argentina, Yugoslavia back in the 90s. Of course, the famous one, Weimar Germany, back in the 30s or the late 20s, whenever that was. The Great Depression here in the United States of America. Who came and saved us? Who went to Zimbabwe and saved them? No one did. They had to get through it on their own. Who went to Argentina and saved them during their hyperinflation times where their economy pretty much collapsed? They're actually going through a very high level of inflation right now. Who's going to Venezuela to save them? And ladies and gentlemen, every time I bring up Venezuela, for some reason or another, someone always comments, it's the fault of the United States that Venezuela is in the condition that they're in economically, etc., etc. Ladies and gentlemen, get this through your heads. It doesn't matter. Do you really think that anything that you or I could have done would have stopped the forces that did whatever it is they did that resulted in the Venezuelans suffering, that it would have stopped them? No. These forces that I'm talking about is governments. And throughout the world, governments have grown so strong and powerful that our vote no longer counts. Now, you can believe that if you want, and you don't have to believe that if you don't want to. But think back, for those of you that live here in the United States, think back 30 years or 40 years. How many left-wing presidents have we had? How many right-wing presidents have we had? What has changed? What has gotten any better? Things have only gotten incrementally worse. People are mesmerized by the mainstream media because they think that they're being told the truth, when in fact, they're just being propagandized so that we can toe the line in the direction in which they want us to toe the line. We fail to do our own research. And I cannot blame the average person. And let me tell you why I can't blame the average person. The way I see life is a ladder. And of course, a ladder has rungs. Now, that first rung of the ladder is what I would call the rung of biology. In order for you to get through that first rung of the ladder, it's because you need all of the biological needs that your body needs to sustain itself in order to stay alive. What are those needs? Water, food, shelter, warmth. All of those things are the first rung of the ladder. Then the second rung of the ladder, if you're lucky to make it through that first rung and try to reach towards that second rung, that second rung of the ladder to me is maybe you having a chance to get a higher education, to do something that you want to do with your life that will earn you a living, that will allow you to maybe reach what's called, or what we call, the American dream. Get that house, get that 40-hour-a-week job, get that car payment, get that mortgage, get the white picket fence. And then maybe after that, you can reach the third rung of the ladder, which is monetary freedom, being debt-free, maybe being able to retire one day. And that is what I see as most people thinking that the American dream is. Well, ladies and gentlemen, why don't I blame the average person for not being informed in a manner that would be conducive with them being prepared and ensuring that their families are taken care of, either with them being here or not? The reason I don't blame them is because most of the people in the U.S. today are just hanging on to that first rung of the ladder. For a country that is supposedly the most wealthiest country in the world, more than 40%, 44 or 50% of the people in the United States don't have $400 to put towards an emergency. I think it's like 65% of people in the US don't even have $1,000 in the bank. We are in more debt collectively as a population. We are in more debt than we've ever been in the history of this country. So how can I blame the average person for not being well informed enough to know that they're supposed to start prepping if they're not prepping already? Because I see too many things around us that can go wrong at any time. Let me cover some of those things. The most immediate thing that I see in our future that can go wrong would be our economic system. For those of you that don't know, the banks are broke. We work on what's called a fractional reserve banking system, which means that banks have to have a certain percentage of reserves in the bank every day to cover their business. And the percentages vary depending on how many assets the banks have. So let me run this down real quick. And my numbers won't be spot on, but they'll probably be close. A bank that has like up to 113 or so or $130 million in assets has to have at least 3% of those assets in reserves. Any banks that have more than 130 or so million dollar in assets has to have at least 10% of that money in reserves. So what's been going on for the last month or so, a little more than a month now, is that at the end of the day, when the bankers do their books, they're finding out that they don't have enough money to have in reserves for the amount of assets that they have. So they have to borrow that money, which means that our banks are technically illiquid. It means that they're broke. When you have no liquidity, it means that you're broke. That's one thing. Now, the Federal Reserve has just announced not over a week ago that they're going to continue or they're going to restart quantitative easing, which means that they're going to start printing money out of nowhere. They're just going to create the money out of nowhere. I don't know about you, but anytime that I create money, in order to do so, I have to go to work and I have to actually physically be there and actually do something that is of value to someone in order for me to get a check. That is how I create my wealth. The Federal Reserve can just create wealth out of thin air without ever having to work for 1 second. Not even a second, because it only takes them a fraction of a second to click the button on that computer that creates that money out of thin air. Well, what happens when they create that money out of thin air, ladies and gentlemen? It makes the money that you worked for, that you earned, that you spent your talent, your time, your capital, your investment on, worth less than what it was worth before. That is why our banking system right now is in dire straits, and so are we as far as the economy goes. Anyone that thinks that unemployment is at 3.5% really ought to do some research. Because, ladies and gentlemen, the way that the unemployment number is derived, that 3.5% number, it's the people that are currently drawing an unemployment check. They are the people that are currently applied for unemployment. So if you were unemployed for 6 months or however long it is that your unemployment check took care of you for, and then you ran out of entitlements from that unemployment or benefits, you are no longer counted as being unemployed, whether or not you have a job. So please do your research and understand that we are being lied to on many levels. And that's just economics, and that's just the beginning. It's the tip of the iceberg. What else? Our crops. This year, we had a late planting season because of the weather. And I'm going to throw this in there because people just generally don't like to listen to the message. Get out of that tunnel vision mentality, ladies and gentlemen. It doesn't matter whether it's global warming. It doesn't matter whether it's a grand solar minimum that we're going into. It doesn't matter whether it's aliens that are shooting down cosmic rays into our planet. And I know I'm being a little facetious, but I want to try to make this video not that boring. But this year we had a late planting season, and we're having a late harvest that's not going to be completely harvested. It's estimated that we're going to end up harvesting approximately 30 to 35% less product this year than what we did last year. Ask yourselves, what is that going to do to our carryover crop? Our carryover crop is the crop that we had from last year that we're using this year. That was our carryover crop. It's like our buffer. That is going to greatly diminish our carryover crop, which means what? What if we have a bad planting season or harvest season as well again next year? Prices are going to skyrocket. It's going to be an issue of supply and demand. Not only do we have the force of inflation bearing down on us because of the quantitative easing that the Federal Reserve is going to start to do and has already been doing by bailing out the banks for the last month, but now we also have inflation in the form of supply and demand, where the demand is going to be higher than the supply. China. I'm not sure if you know that China this year has had to cull or dispatch more than 500 million pigs, almost their entire herd. China had a herd of about 600 million pigs, and they have had to cull over 500 million due to the swine flu fever, or the swine flu. China has had to cull so many pigs that Kenya has asked them to please stop buying their donkeys, because in the last year and a half or so, China has purchased or bought up more than 50% of Kenya's donkeys for protein. Look it up. This year was the first year in the history of import and export that the United States imported corn from a different country. We imported 60,000 tons of corn from Brazil because the companies, and I do believe it's Smithfield, and I know Smithfield is owned by China, because the companies are afraid that our corn harvest will not be sufficient to feed their animals so that they can put them out in market. We've never had to import corn before. And then we have all of the geopolitical stresses that's going on in the world. We have this going on with China. We have this going on with Russia. We have this going on with Iran, with Syria, still with Iraq, still in Afghanistan. We were messing around with Venezuela here a while back, and I am so very glad that that's kind of calmed down. There's too many things going on for us to be complacent and live in this normalcy bias that we have been accustomed to living in. You have to take responsibility for yourselves. No one is coming to save you. No one went to save Zimbabwe back when their economy crashed. Their economy is crashing again. They're going through hyperinflation again. There's no one over there saving them. They're taking care of themselves, suffering. No one went to save Argentina when their economy or their peso collapsed. No one's been over to Venezuela to save them. Well, some countries have help. But my point is that the people are suffering. Ask yourselves, anyone out there, ask yourselves. It doesn't matter how Venezuela got to where it is. Tell me, if there is one Venezuelan that you think would be opposed to have had a 1, 2, or 3 year supply of food in their home a few years back before all of this stuff started. Of course they would. They would be like, yes, I wish I had a 3 year supply of food or a 1 year supply of food, because their situation's been going on for a lot longer than a year. But if you have a year supply of food, you can still supplement that food with the things that you can get in the here and the now, whenever that situation's going on. What harm could it do for you to put away a few buckets of food to ensure that your family will have the sustenance that they require in order to maintain a simple standard of living, enough so that you don't have to see your children go hungry. So ask yourselves, if you found out that you weren't going to be here in 6 months, would you be okay with wondering if your family was going to be okay or not? Even worse, if you know you're going to be here in 6 months and you know for a fact that things are going to turn sour, would you be okay with watching your children suffer and go through hunger and maybe get an infection in their arm because they scratched their arm, but you don't have simple alcohol or any sanitary wipes to clean the wound, and then they get an infection in their arm and then they have to suffer? Why? Because you believed everything you were told instead of doing your own research. I just told you that this food that I got here has about 280,000 calories. Why are you taking my word for it? Do your own research. Go find out how many calories your family requires in order to sustain their standard of living for a month, or 2 or 3. As far as I'm concerned, the more, the better. That's the message I want to put out to you. Because, ladies and gentlemen, it is not a matter of if, it is a matter of when. We are going into a food crisis. Those of you that don't want to heed the warning, you will be reliving this moment in 3 or 4 years. And that's great news. It's great news that it's going to take 3 or 4 years before we're in a full-blown food crisis, food shortage crisis. That's great news. It gives you time to prep. It may be more expensive for you to prep as time goes on than the next year and the year after, but it still gives you time to prep. So that's actually good news. But take the warning now. What's the worst that can happen? That I eat this rice here in 5 years or 10 years for the price that I paid for it today? That's the worst that can happen, ladies and gentlemen. If you're not a prepper, or if you're very new to prepping, it's not rocket science. Trust me, I am not a genius. I am not a prophet that knows it all. It's very simple stuff that you can do very inexpensively, even if you're on a budget. You don't have to buy the things that I buy. All you have to do is get the things that you need. But first, you have to be aware and you have to understand that you need to start doing it. Because if you don't, ladies and gentlemen, I guarantee you this: FEMA doesn't have enough food to feed everyone. The government doesn't have enough food to feed everyone. And if we have another bad cropping season, or another 2 bad cropping seasons, 2 years in a row, or even if we have a year without a summer, like it has happened in the past, we are going to be in dire straits. Now, in a way, America is lucky, because here in the United States of America, we throw away about 30% of the food that we produce. Which means that when things start to get tough for us as a country, we will still have ways to make it, as long as we plan ahead and learn how not to waste food. I'm sure that by that time, there will probably be capital controls on the purchasing and gathering of foods, meaning that you'll probably go to a store or a supermarket or wherever, and they'll say, hey, you can only buy 2 boxes of Cheerios a month because that's all we can afford to let you buy. Or the price of the food will be so high that you will only be able to afford 2 boxes of Cheerios a month. Take advantage of this time while we still have it. We have time to prepare. It's okay to live a life. If you want to go to the movies, go to the movies. If you want to go out to dinner, go out to dinner. You don't have to consume your life with prepping, but put a little bit of money aside and prep. Now, obviously, I'm going to tell you to go watch my videos. Why? Because I know that I've already done them. I know that you can find those videos that I'm talking about on this platform here on this channel, where I show you how to prep on the cheap. There are some items that I prep that are expensive to some people, but there's a lot of videos that I have where I show you how to package things on the cheap. I show you what kinds of things to buy that are nutrient, that have a lot of nutrition for a little bit of money, and show you how to put them away. Look for those videos. You can do this. There's nothing wrong with putting away some insurance for your family. Ladies and gentlemen, you have to understand this. We are no longer the United States of America that we used to be. I remember talking about this with WV over at WV Prepared Mind. If you haven't checked out her channel, go ahead and check it out. I'll leave a card right here somewhere so you can go check out her channel. And support her if you like her by subscribing. But I remember talking about this on WV's channel. And it was that we are no longer the country we used to be. In the early 20th century or early 1900s, we used to be a robust nation with hardy people. 95+% of the people in this country used to farm and or grow their own food. They used to not have to rely on a supermarket to sustain their nutrition. In the days that we live in today, it is the complete opposite. I like to call it the inverse of that era. Because today it's the opposite. Today only 2 to 3% of the people in the U.S. are farmers. The rest can't farm or don't know how to farm and don't produce their own food. Most people don't know how to butcher their own animals or raise their own animals or grow their own food. Most people have never done that. Most people are completely reliant on the system that we have in order for them to sustain life with nutrition. What happens if tomorrow the supermarkets close? How much food do you have in your pantry? For how long can you feed your family with the food that's in your pantry? Ask yourselves that question. What happens if they don't open up for a month? See, I'm only talking about prepping for sustenance right now. There's a lot of forms of prepping. You need to prep for water. If you have all of the things that you need to sustain yourself, you need to prep for self-defense. But if I can get some people to just start prepping for sustenance so that they can at least feed their family, maybe they can wake up to the fact that they also have to prep for other things, like self-defense. Because what good does it do, ladies and gentlemen, for anyone to get all this stuff if you're going to allow someone to come over and knock you over the head and take it just because they are tougher and bigger than you are? Self-defense weapons are neutralizers. What they do is they equalize your competition. A 150-pound person can defend themselves against a 400-pound person if they had the right self-defense instrument. So there's different levels of prepping. If you're new to this channel, if you're just passing by, consider subscribing and consider listening a little bit more. And if you just don't like the way I look, that's okay. Go to another prepping channel. There's a whole bunch of prepping channels out there, ladies and gentlemen. You don't only have to come to this one. But why do I recommend that you come to this channel? It's because we have an outstanding community. And our community members here, for the most part, want to help each other and are always there to answer questions and to carry each other along. And instead of pushing someone down, they'd rather pick them up. That's the first main reason why you should subscribe to this channel and be part of our community. But the other reason is because Everything I teach you guys, or try to teach you, because I'm not the smartest person in the world, it comes from the heart. I didn't start doing this to become a YouTube millionaire. Another thing I talked about on WV's channel is that it's not all about money. It's not all about the numbers. I would love to have 1 million subscribers. You know why? Because that means that 1 million people are listening to me tell them that they need to prep. It's not about the Benjamins. I've never seen a U-Haul follow behind a hearse. Because when you die, you can't take it with you. So I can tell you this with all sincerity, ladies and gentlemen, that the reason I do this is because I want to reach one and teach one. And I want to repeat that cycle as many times as I can. So that you can wake up. Wake up and understand that you are going to need the things that I'm telling you you're going to need. You're going to need sustenance in the future. You're going to wish you had it. And you know what? My greatest wish is this. My greatest wish is that I am 100% wrong. And 20 years from now, someone's playing this video on YouTube making fun of me because I was wrong. I hope to God that that comes true. But I just don't think that's the case. Help yourselves. Help your families. Sure, you're not going to get interest on rice, but it's sure going to fill your belly if you ever need it. Having said that, ladies and gentlemen, listen, I know I ranted on for a while. It's a conversation that I really wanted to have with you because it's important to me. For those of you that have stuck around with the Alaska Prepper channel from the beginning, I want to tell you that I'm very grateful to you. Because it's because of you that I'm able to push this message forward. And it is because of you that we've had it. On the Alaska Prepper channel, we've already had, I counted the other day, over 25 people. I wish I would have been keeping track of the names. But we've had over 25 people that have subscribed to this channel who are community members that started prepping because of our community. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that's a beautiful thing. It's because of your encouragement that they've started prepping. So thank you. Gentlemen, that's going to be it for this little talk. For those of you that stuck around, thank you very much. You know you're my VIPs. I wanted to say thank you one more time for what you're looking at here. It's going to make a difference. Having said that, remember to be good to each other. When good people do good things happen. Remember to reach one, teach one, and repeat. If we all did this, the world would be a better place, and you know that it will be a better place. Many blessings to all of you and your families. Oh, and ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be going on live Sunday afternoon, Alaska time at 3 p.m. if you'd like to join in. We're just going to be talking about prepping, and please bring any questions that you may have. Again, many blessings to all of you and your families. This is Alaska Prepper, and I am out.